Anyway, let's start. Let's hear introduction of each one of you here, panelists. Maybe Philip, you can start.
Yeah, hello. Do you hear me? Or do I have to go closer to the mic? Okay, perfect. Great. Hey, I'm Philip. I'm based in Beijing for the last 10 years. I'm not Chinese, I'm a German actually. And I run a music company called Fake Music Media. That started out as a just basically promoter, and then became kind of a booking agency, and then we also manage Chinese artists. And we organize events. I also consult for music companies. And write reports about music business in China and stuff like that. And I also have contracts for Rise, one here. That's in the third year, next year. It happens in Beijing, and the Grefer Festival is one of my partners there. So it's like about bringing the people together from the creative music industry, from the creative industry and the tech world, basically. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Andre from India. I run a company called Nothing Regular. We also partnered on the conference together for years in the creative industry. We own our own music festival, the Tattoo Convention, Tattoo Festival, which is also programming artists, independent artists, all genres for our festival. India's got like a huge amount of festivals that happen. It's a big country, so we always looking for good talent and good bands or acts to come into India and experience India there.
Alexa, booking agent and talent buyer. I work with 3 agencies from US, Cybergroove, Satellite Touring and European Entertainment. I've been booking artists in Europe and Asia for the past 6 years, 5 years and a half, something like that. And yeah, basically about it, that's all I do.
Maybe Alexa, can you tell what's your Asia story? Which markets do you typically work at?
Well, I particularly work in Europe and in Southeast Asia. Actually, in Asia, without China and India, so I'm looking at my friends here for help to change that. But yeah, basically that would be from Romania, Ukraine, Serbia, Bulgaria, Germany, France, Italy, United UK to Indonesia, Philippines, Taiwan, Japan.
And Andre, you also work not only with India, but
Yeah, we work in the Southeast Asian market. Our focus was to, when we partnered with years and Aussie and Jani, was to see what a great platform it is to connect Europe and Asia on the same platform, the same level. So that's when India's already a platform, it's our home ground, so we're pretty strong there. But then we moved into setting up a base in Singapore to then connect Asia, Southeast Asia with Europe and India together. So that's where there's a lot of potential for Indonesia, for Philippines. I mean, for music, definitely Philippines, Indonesia, Myanmar, Cambodia are emerging markets to focus on and to look into, getting festivals, bookings there, or just playing regular gigs and concerts.
and also Philip, you also do tours outside of China as well.
Yeah, we have booked. I think we have booked about maybe 200 artists in the last 10 years, something about that. Mostly China, but sometimes also to Southeast Asia, Japan, Korea, stuff like that.
So how do you see that developing, the touring networks with Asia? Can you talk about like doing the Asia tour?
Yeah.
60% of the world population. So
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. I mean, Asia is crazy huge. It's like China has 1.3 or 1.4 billion, India 1.3 billion. You have like about I think 300 million in Indonesia, right? About that, and I mean it's just a huge place. It's widely different in cultures. I mean India has nothing to do with China culturally, not really. and and obviously very different tastes, So within Asia, I would say China definitely it's such a big place. India is such a big place, and because of the colonial part of India, I guess. I mean, you can talk more about that. But I mean, obviously you speak English, and it's maybe a little bit easier to communicate than if you go to China, which obviously you speak Chinese, I mean Mandarin, and then 60 million people speak Cantonese. And China also has a interesting history where it just opened up the last 30 years. So before that, not much musically has happened for Western music. I think 1984 was Wham what came to China. It was kind of one of the first Western bands that actually came to China and had some sort of impact. 1984. By that time, in the 1950s, we had rock and roll. So it's different timelines of what the things happened. And to that extent, obviously, when I came to China in 2007 for the first time, there was one festival, and now there are, some people say about 300 festivals. Always numbers in China is always kind of difficult to come by reliable numbers, and also for the Asia network of promoters or bookers and stuff like that. Obviously, we have places like Hong Kong or Singapore, which have been much closer to the West. They had already established markets when China was just opening up, although they are relatively small markets. And then China and Hong Kong and Singapore maybe weren't really connected, neither taste-wise nor with promoter-wise. Same with Japan and Korea. 10 years ago, there was not really a lot of exchange between these places, but now it has, this network of promoters and booking agencies and professionals, came into being, and now you can really do an Asia tour. Before it was just big in Japan, and so it changed.
Big in China. So I think the growth numbers for China and India were China last year was 35% music industry growth, and India was 25%. So obviously there's a fast development. How do you see Andre the touring environment changing and the music market changing?
It's kind of just we were mainly Bollywood centric. Bollywood sells everything there, and then suddenly in the last 10 years, it's moved on to alternative music, acts, and any other genre works now. So while the major population definitely consumes Bollywood, but if you take our numbers 1.34 billion people, even if we have a 10% market stake of our music and our content that we want, and if you get 1% out of that 10%, you're as good as a whole country, a smaller country, following, and that's your audience there. So, in terms of numbers, it may sound I'm just consuming 1% in India. That's my kind of fan reach or my audience. But then when you see that 1%, it's really huge for you. So.
And during the years you've been working in Southeast Asia, how do you see things changing? I visited to Mexico actually.
How is it? Well, the thing is that every time I get to interact with the promoters there, I see that they're opening up. 5 years ago, they were really reluctant from the point that you would actually, as a booking agent, you needed to be there face to face to talk to that person, to even take into consideration to make a show, not actually book. So initially I was flying to Asia just to have a discussion for a club show. And in the end, I ended up moving there for a while. But now they're starting to be more active, more trusting when it comes to European companies, for example. And it's really good to see that. They're starting to accept newer, more unpopular bands. Because yes, if you have a band like I don't know UB40, then yeah, you'll be able to sell it in an instant in Asia because everybody knows red wine, including in Asia, so it's not a problem. But having a smaller acts now it starts to get a little bit easier. I think they're getting to the place where they want to experiment and test and see how things go.
Yeah, so what's your experience like for genres of music? Like you work across different genres, so what's like what's the market for I don't know thrash metal versus EDM or what are the different countries, you know?
Well, let's say like this thrash metal and rock is somewhere around here, and EDM is somewhere around here.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to imagine that, we have to think of the fact that there's also in Loud Park, there's the biggest metal festival in Japan. And what they have as headliners is Scorpions, Whitesnake, and I don't know, Five Finger Death Punch. And that's the level of hardcore music there. And when it comes to real budget and mainstream and huge events, of course you can make the thrash metal tour if you want, or a punk tour, but most likely at the end of the day you'll have to pay yourself for the tour.
Is there like differences between like Southeast Asia and what experience? So like what are the countries that you work with most and what's
Well, Indonesia, Taiwan, and Japan mostly. They're financially more active and they have more potential there. But there's always the issue of money when it comes to metal tools at least, and to bands that are coming from Europe or from US. Because you have the costs of having the band there with all the rider and I know visas and the band fee, which is let's say €5, and then you have the flights, which is most likely 7 or 8 euros. And when you do the math, nobody wants to do that. And it has to come to a common sense and agreement between the band and the promoter. You end up paying a lot from your own pocket.
So China, there's like 160 cities over a million people. So how many of those cities can you actually tour?
I mean, as a domestic act, obviously you can tour more than as a foreign act. You know, I mean, the question is always like how people consume music, and you know, again, it's a huge country. Very few people speak English. The people that are interested in your music are probably like people that are, you know, obviously Beijing, Shanghai, you know, the first tier cities, maybe Guangzhou, Shenzhen, you know, Chengdu, you know, so quite a few cities, but like in a place, you know, that has 1 million, 1 million, which is small for China, you know, somewhere which you never heard of. I mean, you haven't even heard of like the cities that have like 8 million people, you know, so the audience that you have there is probably not for you. But I would say you can tour, okay, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Chengdu, Chongqing, Hangzhou. So yeah, everybody knows all these cities, yeah. These are all cities about like, you know, at least 5 million people. You know, so that's, I would say, at least 7 cities which you could tour as an international act.
Does it differ across genres?
Yeah, I mean, genres that are, you know, relatively popular, you know, talking about bands is, I mean, metal everywhere has its niche, right? Then you have like post-rock, you know, that works quite well, so, you know, there's, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why it is, but like maybe because it has no lyrics or something like that, but it translates quite well. Electronic music works in all of these cities. Of course, electronic music, you have like the underground stuff, you know, so you have underground clubs in all of these cities that I mentioned, but you also have like, you know, the big kind of like EDM bottle service clubs, you know, plus EDM festivals, you know, like so kind of more the commercial end of electronic music. That kind of stuff works. And I mean, lots of indie bands tour these cities as well, so that kind of works, yeah.
So in India, how many cities can you tour in India?
So India is like not south, east, west India, so south, north, it's not different. Like a taste that works for east and south does not work for north. But you can get like a 4-city tour. Something that we call short tours, which are like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You do 4 cities where, depending on the programming, we know which cities will work. So we tour there and there's a back-to-back. You do Thursday, you do it in one city, and then you end up traveling every night. And Sunday, you do the last city and you fly out. Or the other way to do it is like when you have, a festival happening, like, where promoters are booking, 200 artists, 250 artists, 50 headliners for 5 days. Then those acts that come in like really get an opportunity to travel for about a month within India. So like you're going into one city, you're doing, maybe 2 shows, and then like back to back you do like 3, and then the whole week is off, and then you're back to India. So you can actually tour like for a month, but that's during our season time that we call, which is like from the season opens up from September end, from October right up to March. But then for March it gets like really hot, and summers are in 45 degrees, 40 degrees, so you won't be doing outdoor acts. But straight after our monsoons, which ends in like September, is when the season starts for festivals and concerts and outdoor shows that happen.
Does it make it more difficult to share like artists with other Asian countries? Because like you have a different festival season. Like you do your festivals in the winter, and China does in the summer, I guess.
Yeah, but see what works there, what we've been seeing, like since I'm now personally based in Singapore, while the company is operating out of India, so it works like where even if there's not, like if India's got a festival happening, the festival season, it's easy to like get like a 1-day show in Singapore, and then you get the next day in Jakarta in Indonesia, and then you get Malaysia. So like that's how it works like for the other side of Southeast Asia, where you can do a quick tour with Singapore, Jakarta, Indonesia, and Malaysia, or like Philippines, because they're just like 1 hour, 2 hour travel.
Yeah, and I mean, now, we're talking about Asia, right? I mean, from Singapore to Beijing, it's like 6 hours by flight, so, hey, when you fly in 6 hours, if you're in Vienna and, you make the 6-hour circle around, where are you then, I mean, it's huge,
Yeah, I took 13 hours, 1 direct flight from Singapore to Zurich, and then another 2-hour wait, and 3 hour here, so it took me 20 hours to get here. But then the tour works in such a way that you get to India first, which is like just 8, 9 hours, 10 hours max. You get to India first, then you tour India, which is large, and then you get into moving into Singapore, which is like 5 hours flight from there. So once you're there, you can do like a short tour around Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Cambodia, Myanmar, and these are all very, very potential countries to tour in, and it's all opening up. Everybody is programming there. Like 15 years back, 18 years back, we had challenges of clubs or venues not even entertaining us. They were like, Friday, Saturday is my bar sale, so we have only Bollywood DJs play here. Maybe Wednesday we'll give you, a slot on Wednesday to do hip hop will work, so maybe we can do hip hop. But now every venue wants to program into, alternative music, and it's not Bollywood anymore in the clubs and the venues that are playing. So Bollywood has got its own, big concerts and things happening, but nobody is. It's really nice to see that. It's very positive to see that venues are actually coming forward and saying that, hey man, what do you have? What's the kind of acts that you can bring in this year? So there's World Music Day, and 20 venues in Bombay itself want to do things. So every booking agent or promoter is running around getting in acts or artists there. So it works beautifully for all of us if we can like share information and share what are the acts, what are the because we don't know everything that's happening here, but if we get to know what's happening here and then we go through it and we can present it back in Asia, in India, Singapore, China, and then it actually creates the awareness that this is possible to do.
You mentioned Lexa that you often like you are Australia first and then you build like a Southeast Asia tour.
Australia is obviously more like Europe or like US, and they have the financial capabilities to help out an artist, to help out the tour. So it's easier for them, or in Australia we can get 2-3 cities to make a tour, and from that you pay your flights from wherever you are to that part of the planet. And from that point, you take a flight, let's say to Bali, where it's like I think 3 or 4 hours flight, which is nothing. And you have a show there, then you fly to Jakarta, where it's another 2-hour flight, and you have a show there, then you can go to Jakarta, then you can go to Singapore and so on and go to tour. But knowing that the money you have from the Australian tour or New Zealand tour, you can cover all your expenses, and whatever else you get from the Southeast Asia will be actually the amount of money that the tour will gain at the end of the day. So it's not that I do it because I like to. It's like a necessary leg that I need to include in most of the tours. It's like a safe bet.
And Andre, you didn't mention Bangladesh or Pakistan or India.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we have challenges in Pakistan ourselves to get in there on visas. In Bangladesh, as in India, I have.
Is there live music scene like that? South Asia?
Well, actually, Pakistan has got beautiful talent, and if you heard of Folk Studio, you should check out talent in Pakistan. They're Sufi, they're like, the music is like, and they've got beautiful, great talent there. But it's just that it's cross borders, not connecting. And Bangladesh is an emerging market now. Like it's really popping up to, from very folk oriented consumption to now they're opening up into like you've got like hip hop acts coming up from there, and so it's working. It's opening up Bangladesh. It's just that we still have like challenges of getting artists there, visas and things like that. See, in India, once you need one visa, you come in, you can cover the whole of India and go back. Singapore is easy to get a visa. Indonesia, it's on arrival. So for our artists to book in there, we know it's like 100% confirmed. We book you to Indonesia, no problem. You get in there on arrival visa, you go out. Thailand works the same way. So there are like challenges in Pakistan and Nepal is also good. Nepal is actually a very good market where a lot of metal. They're not into the EDM scene there, but they're like into really heavy metal, and so that's a market that you can definitely look at.
How's the for India? How's the sort of is there like performance projects like kind of like you feel like or
Yeah.
the artist needs to be involved?
Oh no, the artists don't need to be involved because we as promoters, take care of that. We just have you send us a rider, we can look at it. It all works for us. There's no problem in providing for the rider. Now it's all available, and then we get all your groundwork done for you. We send you an invitation letter. Do your visas online. Once you come in, there are certain processes that you need to do with the government, and you just get that done, and you can legally perform, play, do your thing, and go back as an artist.
But China is another ball game, so you have some difficulties there in the permit side and visa.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it the proper way, then you need a performance visa, and for the performance visa, you need a couple of things, which is, so the artist needs to provide on management or whatever, like the lyrics, MP3s of like 5 songs or something like that, a set list of what the artist is gonna play, a live video, And something else. Anyway, but you know, like you have to have that ready. Obviously, you know, the artist a lot of times doesn't know what he's gonna play like in 3 months from now. You know, he doesn't know the set list, but you just you just give a set list basically. You know, and then it's not that often that somebody is really like at the concert and is really looking through the set list, unless you maybe Justin Bieber or something like that. Yeah, but for the artists that probably you guys represent, it's not that problematic. That's the proper way with that needs to be done by festivals and also like licensed venues. So, but there's also like unlicensed venues in China, which are quite a lot, and they still have shows. So you don't ask me how they do these shows. I'm not gonna tell you exactly right now, but they happen. So yeah, there's always a gray zone in China as well.
Is the gray zone like in all cities in China or like?
Yeah, I mean, the gray zone exists in every city. It's a little bit more lax the farther away you're from the emperor, and the emperor sits in Beijing.
So like let's say let's say what kind of regulatory like do you face any problems in
Not necessarily, because the promoters are really proactive and they send all the documentation needed, and they basically just send a bunch of information like, okay, you need our IDs, you need passports, you need facing photons, set list, and so on. The only real issue with getting a visa is in Japan, beautiful Japan, where if you have a criminal record, especially for consumption or distribution of drugs, you are not allowed. So this goes up to Class A Act, reason for which you will never see Snoop Dogg or Cypress Hill in Japan.
Is there anything like that for China?
I think
welcome or
I don't know. I remember Snoop Dogg hasn't been to China yet. I think. I mean, what you can always see, like how you don't get an act into China is usually you do like a quick Google search, put the name of the artist and Tibet in, and then if a photo of him and the Dalai Lama comes up, it's like a no-go, or if you have been like on a free Tibet compilation, it's usually no-go. Sometimes, but also there have been cases where either like the authorities didn't do the Google search, or maybe they really liked that act or whatever and still came in. So it's a little bit, I mean that's usually what I do, like Google the artist name and Tibet, and then tell the manager, hey, that might be a problem, should we still go on with it, and then we can still try, and sometimes it works out still. I mean, Björk was 2008. I mean, that's a long time ago now, but she did like a show in China actually, and then she was like chanting Tibet for doing a song like Declare Independence, which was not a good idea. I think the promoter who did the show got out of business, and Björk just I said, and it hasn't been seen since in China. Yeah.
No, it really works in India. Snoop Dogg's come to India. 50 cents has come, Akon has come, so there's no problem with that, unless it's like you say, like a super criminal record or something where otherwise, no, it's pretty. You will sometimes maybe face challenges at the immigration counter, asking you details of what your granddad did, or maybe your grandmom did, or father did, which is not relevant to why you're in India. But they may just ask you a question or two, which you just need to, give them the right answer, and it's pretty okay. Otherwise, you've come in a couple of times.
I haven't had any trouble.
None of the delegates that come in here. But none of the delegates that come and have like major issues at the immigration or something.
I mean, one thing in China which is actually kind of nice is like, once you have a visa in your passport, then it's all done. You know, nobody asks you any questions actually at immigration, which is quite nice, and which is like very different from the US, for example, where they like ask you like tons of questions and you're like, oh shit. China's like, oh, you have a visa, fine, you know, now you can get it. So it's not.
But it's challenging for us as to, I mean, when we as Indian want to come to Europe, you know, especially for artists, because like they really don't have too much information to share to get a European visa. You need, like, for us to travel here and get artists here, you really need like to show 3 years of your income tax returns, 6 months of your bank statement. Now, most of the artists that want to travel into Europe really don't meet those, you know, conditions. Because he's just an artist. He doesn't have a 6-month, you know, bank account or, I mean, a relevant number figure in that account to show that I can go there. I don't have 3 years income tax file to show, you know. So there are challenges that it's faced both ways for artists.
So India is now world's biggest Facebook nation, world's biggest YouTube nation. Like next year, world's biggest Instagram nation.
Instagram, yes.
You have the last year, 100 million more people went online in India, like on internet. So you have the big numbers there. But then again, China is not number one in Facebook. And so how does that make your life difficult, or how does that affect the market there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's really annoying, especially for the Chinese artists that I work with. You know, I wish they were on. We had the Facebook numbers because then they would look much bigger than a lot of European artists. But yeah, it is a challenge. You know, yeah, everything that you said is blocked, right? Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You know, nobody's really using Spotify. You have like other platforms, Chinese platforms, and that makes it, you know, there's basically the great firewall which distracts like information exchange basically between China and the rest of the world, which, you know, if you have like really amazing YouTube numbers, it doesn't mean anything in China, right? So that makes it difficult, and that means that you have to, if you have an artist that wants to do something in China, then better get them on the platforms that they are in China, right? And build a profile. I mean, it's not only the platforms that's the problem, the great firewall, but obviously it's also a language problem, right? I mean, in India, you speak English. In China, not, right? So that's kind of like the first. I always call it kind of a censorship, you know, in a way, because you cannot speak, you know, you cannot speak Chinese. So it's like, you know, you don't know what's going on. That's really a big challenge to the language. Yeah.
Does that do you see like opening up opportunities, you know, in reverse way that not a lot of Western artists maybe have profiles and have so if you put like effort into that and does it open up like opportunities for
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you you know, can obviously handle, you know, this kind of market, and you are one of the few people that can handle this kind of market, you know, like, I mean, the barrier to entry into China is a little bit higher than in other markets, right? If you jump this barrier of entry in a good way, then, you know, you have a good chance to compete with less people, right? So I think that there is definitely an opportunity there. Yeah.
And so India is like okay, all these big numbers for YouTube and so on and so forth, but I mean, it's also a country with 20 official languages.
100 official languages.
100, okay, yeah. So what's the do people actually follow, like listen to international music?
Oh yes, it's interesting that, you know, from so India moved very fast from analog, you know, from cable TV basically to digital space. So it had single screen. You know, the entire family would sit and watch television on one screen together, and it did not like follow or go the American way of having multi-screen, you know. But then it just moved overnight into digital space. So from a landline telephone, everybody was on a mobile phone, and then everybody was on the screen. So, you know, the digital world just like exploded over there. So yeah, it's good for artists from anywhere because when if they're Indian, they're following, if they're like Instagram followers, you just get like you do one tour, you do one appearance in a club or in a concert or a venue, you have like 5,000 followers from India following you organically. Everything that you post, they want to they want to comment, they want to. India talks a lot, so they want to like really go and comment and like your post and like they are your true fan followers. So as an independent artist, if you have an Instagram handle and page, and then you get so many more followers from India, it's good for the artist.
So when you're booking tours in Asia, like what's on the social media front, what should artists do, or what makes them more sellable?
Well, that's why I'm the booking agent. No, but usually the artists, they have a publishing company or they have a PR marketing department that handles their events. And yeah, they usually use the local platforms, whatever they are, if it's WeChat or I don't know what these platforms are called and so on. And they have local freelancers. Usually then they work with them when it comes to, I don't know, finding influencers or making posts for a certain country because, well, I don't speak Indonesian or, I don't know, Chinese, Taiwanese and so on, and I couldn't say if it's good or not, but I couldn't able to make the posts, so we get services from specialized people.
That helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are the Chinese platforms?
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting lesson now. So there's I'm doing this in a little bit interactive now, like so I see where the audience here is. There's this thing called BAT, B-A-T, which stands for Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. So who has heard of Baidu? Okay. Who has heard of Alibaba? Who has heard of Tencent? Okay, this is very sad. Guys, really, I mean, Baidu, okay, Baidu is like is kind of the Google of China. It's not so relevant for the music industry at the moment anymore. It used to be that you would like basically Baidu any song that you get, and then you could download it for free, because everything was pirated in China. But that has like changed. Then you have Alibaba, which is kind of it's actually one of the biggest banks in the world in a way. At the same time, it's started out as e-commerce, right? So it's kind of like the Amazon or whatever. But it's also the biggest bank, and they also have like a music streaming service called Xiaomi. It's like Ali Music, Xiaomi. Then you have Tencent. I mean, Tencent is one of the biggest companies, internet companies in the world now. Like together with Google, Amazon, Facebook, and stuff like that. So you should really know it. Not only if you want to go to China, just in the future, China is also coming to you. So you better get familiar with it. So Tencent is at the moment the market leader in streaming. So it has like actually 4 apps, streaming apps, which it bought. Like one is like QQ Music, which was like from Tencent itself, and then it bought like Kuwo and Kugo in 2013 and 14, and then it has another app called WeSing, which is a karaoke app. Then you have like so there was BAT, right, Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, and then you have like NetEase, which is actually a gaming company. They earn most of the money by like computer games basically, and they also have a huge streaming company called NetEase Cloud Music. So at the moment it's between kind of Tencent and NetEase Cloud Music, who's leading basically basically the Spotify and Apple Music or whatever you want to call it. So you have to get on these platforms basically to be visible in China with your music. How do you do that? Well, you go to your local distributor, whatever you believe, the Orchard or like whatever you use here in Austria, in Germany or whatever, and tell them, hey, you know, we want to be also be part in, you know, also be on Tencent and you know, NetEase. And you know, once your music is on there, you also then you need to start promotion basically, you know, your music, because okay, it's available, but nobody knows that it's available. So how do you do that? One thing could be with you know, doing promotion on these platforms actually, because these platforms, unlike your Spotify and Apple Music, are very socially active. So you can comment there, you know, you can like make promotions within within these platforms. Then, you know, one good thing to use is like WeChat. Have everybody has heard of WeChat? Hands up. Well, yeah. Okay, fine. WeChat is actually owned by Tencent. You know, so WeChat, you know, is your lifeblood in China. You pay with it. You know, you know, it's your WhatsApp. It's your Facebook wall. You know, whatever. You know, so you use it all the time basically. And you also have groups like in, you know, WhatsApp groups, so you can like do promotion within these groups. These groups are like you know, 500, you know, maximum of 500 people get in there, and they have like, you know, all kinds of music groups. You know, your like, you know, your Beijing underground techno group. You know, and there's tens of them, right? So like for everything there's a group. So you can, you know, put these into these groups. Then you have like kind of Weibo. Weibo is like, you know, some sort of a Twitter-like thing where you can actually gain followers. You know, so that's another thing to yeah, to, you know, to let people know that you actually exist. So I think WeChat, you know, the DSPs themselves, and like Weibo, this is like your, you know, your base. This is that you should like touch to get a little bit more known, other than obviously the traditional media. If you get on TV, hey, that's not so bad. There's like internet TV shows and stuff like that. That if you get on these kinds, you know, it's gonna be super huge in China as well.
So I guess I mean the digital payments in China are about 200 times US at the moment. So the digital economy there is this kind of fan-based economy, and you know, like likes make virtual money in China. Can you tell a little bit about that? Let's talk about money. Like, how do you make money in China?
How do you make money in China? I mean, if you're an artist, obviously live, I think, is probably, you know, your number one that makes money in China. There's two kinds of shows. You know, there's ticketed, hard ticketed shows, and then there's you know, we call it corporate or commercial shows or whatever, where like a brand, you know, invites you and you play there. The latter, you know, I mean, the hard ticket shows like work like anywhere in the world. You know, it's once you have them, it's great. Once you have like a following and you can really actually sell tickets, that's great. But it's a, you know, it's a difficult way to get there. You know, the other shows, like the corporate shows, the commercial shows, like they're a little bit like more like the quick money, you know, where you can get, but it doesn't mean that you can generate any fans, right? So these are two things that make the money. We were touching on streaming. That just starts basically. I think, you know, the Spotify model where you get like, you know, paid out per stream or whatever. This is just starting in China. Before, the labels were getting, you know, the majors were actually getting huge amounts of money by advances, you know, by Tencent, NetEase, Alibaba. But now, what we are seeing now is that actually you get paid per stream, and that there comes in the Merlin deal. Everybody knows what Merlin is. Yeah. Well, it's like it's an association of all kind of like of the most important like independent labels in the world, and they made a deal with you know, these streaming platforms, so that you get paid, that these labels get like paid by a per stream basis, and that money is not very much yet, but it's growing, and that will be probably the future of China. So, you know, this is another way you make money, is actually, you know, your music will be streamed in China and you'll get money from that. Talk to your label, talk to your distributor, you know, ask them, you know, how it works, you know. So that's how you make money. Obviously merchandise, you know, hey, you can actually, a lot of bands forget that, you know, they're like, you know, in China nobody's buying my stuff, you know, it's all pirated or whatever. No, actually, you can get your real like merchandise to the Chinese audience, and they're gonna love it, you know. So that's another way to make money in China. Yeah, so it's not very much different from here actually, in a way.
So how do you make money in India?
Well, as the Mumbai Assembly, we're still trying to make money for our venue. Right? But yeah, for artists, it's like there's a lot of festivals that happen, a lot of showcasing that happens. So once we can kind of, see the influence has been always America, Europe for artists to come and play at festivals. So festivals are a good way to make money. Once you play at a festival, you get booked for smaller pop-up shows that happen around, and then the promoter takes care of stay, travel, tickets, visas, everything. So that way you don't have to spend anything out of your pocket. But once you come in there and you can do like 4-5 shows, then you can make, you're happy you go back home with a substantial amount of money. Digital monetization is like still, not, because you're going through Spotify or through the labels or the streaming platform, which are not based. It's just like got offices in India where everything comes there and then gets distributed. But gigs are the best way. Festivals and gigs are the best way to make money. And then obviously, once you make your market there, you make your audience there, then there are repeats that you keep coming in. Good.
Sponsorship driven, obviously, like a lot in India. So, and a lot of these like Spotify and Amazon and whatever, like, they're investing a lot of money into India and consumer services or other hubs. Can international artists benefit from that?
Oh yes, of course, because so when we started doing sponsorship marketing for our festivals or for our projects, it was very easy to get money from sponsors. They would say, okay, put my logo on the backdrop and here's your money, and then the corporate angle came into like your ROI for what you're spending and giving this festival. So what's your return of investment from, even if it's 40,000 people coming to your festival? So then they started questioning us to say that I'm just not going to give you money to put my logos all over, because if I do one print ad or if I do one television campaign ad, I'm going to get 5 times those numbers, those eyeballs. So then we had to work up and come back with like intelligent ways, or like keep reinventing the wheel with them of to how to engage them and how to get their brands in to engage. Now it's become like completely influencer marketing and integrated marketing for festivals. So like no brand, like a Samsung is launching a new phone, they want integration into the festival to happen. So they want an artist to maybe do something with it, do something with the features, and then that goes into the digital platforms, and then they give you money for that. So that's how it's moved right now. So even an artist can make money from it, because they don't give the festival any more money, but they're giving like individual, one-on-one kind of content that you will create, and they give you money for that.
So, so what's your advice for artists or management to, like, if they want to build their artist in Asia?
Get a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we all think we understand Asia, but in reality we don't. So we need people from there. We need a team from there. I like Andre here. I could read and go to about India and go to India, I don't know, for the next 10 years, and I will never be able to understand how the Indian market works as good as he does. Because these people, they grow there, they develop themselves there, and the market grew with them, and the market is them. So obviously, you need to get a partner from that particular country or particular area you want to access, and start building your brand and with them.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you have to, obviously, if you want to export your music, you have to get a team in the country where you want to export it. But like, first I would say like get export ready actually, and just make sure that whatever you do is really fucking good, don't think like, hey, in Austria, nobody likes me in Austria, so I better go to China because, like, hey, well, I mean, it would be good if you're already good in Austria and maybe then go to Germany, and then like from there go like, just be good, just grow. Have this global ambition, I think that's something that I really find, I'm German, I find it problematic in Germany, but in Austria as well. There's like, I think you really need to think big. I mean, it's the world out there. You want to conquer this world. Falco, whatever. He didn't sit around there and say like, maybe I want to be like a second-tier artist in Austria. No, like he wanted to really be fucking awesome. He wanted to like, conquer the world, and he did in a way, and then he went back to Austria. But okay. But like just have this ambition and hone your craft and just like make sure that you're fucking awesome, and then and then export and get a team.
Well, it used to be like there was artists that were big in China, but not elsewhere. Is that a thing of the past or?
Yeah, I mean, there's always like this, the exception to the rule or whatever. I mean, one German artist who does really well in Asia and doesn't so well anywhere else is like Maximilian Hecker. But at the time he went to Asia, actually, he was actually doing quite all right. For whatever reason, he then sustained his career in China, Korea, and stuff like that, while in Germany nobody really knows him. That obviously can happen, but I would say that's more like the exception to the rule than the rule.
Andre, can you add what's any advice like how to craft Indian migration?
Well, I think it's like we've got to really push ourselves and push everybody to come there. So it's a lot of work that we need to do, but it's a great emerging market. So platforms like the Years conference and showcasing that happens, the festivals that happen, we need to start we need to really push it out there, and then it all starts working from there. So it's a collaborative effort that we all need to make from our side. While we do our part, you guys do your part, and all of us then can really come together on making a collaborative effort. And, you just see results after that, and you're happy. You see that artists are doing well, they're coming back and playing more gigs. So and it all works there. You never know. Like we started with Modular Synth. We got like Colin Benders to play in a compound in Mumbai, and then he's now like being booked for every big festival, every big club or like venue wants him to come and play. So it works for artists.
So we have time for a few questions here. If there's any hands raised.
How does it work with the collecting societies?
Yeah, which country?
India.
Sorry, how does it work?
Collecting society.
Publishing.
Publishing. Yeah, that's a whole different thing. Story that we can talk about. Like, it all works there, but we need to have a longer conversation on that.
So if we register a song in Austria with the AKN and our band goes to India and plays a big festival, do they get money? Or how does it work? Do I have to register the song somehow in India?
It's a huge grey area right now over there, but it's getting channelized back in India where every festival, what music is being played is getting monitored, and then distribution is happening. So the festival has to pay that kind of fee, and then so it's getting streamlined. Everything it's working towards the positive ways of getting it. So that it comes back, money definitely rotates and comes back. But it was unorganized, but it's getting organized now.
And how about in Japan? Because I heard there are so many collecting societies in Japan.
Well, yeah, they are, but it's still a work in progress there, and usually labels take care of that. We're discussing with the government, and then the governmental societies, they work with the government from where the band is. So what I've done with my band is get that paper from their local authorities for royalties, and the promoters just sign the paper admitting that the band was there and played that amount of tracks and had that set list. And using that document, they go and back home and collect their royalties.
In China now you have companies that like litigate if you find out that you have artists that's like quite popular in on a platform or platforms in China. There's companies now who can take that case and basically their business model is to sue these companies. So they collect the information like played this time, this many times, this many times on these platforms, and then they show the numbers to the streaming platforms and say, hey, we haven't seen any money, and then the Chinese platforms they say like, but the numbers in China are all fake. then the discussion starts basically. So it's like a reference number to start the process of actually. But these companies win their cases most of the time these days. So the government really wants to enforce the copyright stuff.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, definitely there's talking about the streaming companies, Tencent and stuff like that. If they buy a catalog, they make sure that they get like the recording rights and the publishing rights for it. Usually, and if not, then they get sued. So for playing live and getting any money from that, at this time you can forget it. It might happen at some point, but we're still in very early stages. I think that there's like two collecting societies in China, MCSC and Kafka, and Kafka is like mainly collecting from karaoke. I think they get like about 30 million a year or something like that, and MCSC is getting about I think 40 million euros, round about something like that, which is like it's just tiny for like such a huge country. So it's early days, but I'm pretty positive that like everything in China is developing so fast that I wouldn't be surprised. Ask me in 5 years and it could work very differently. I mean, China now, the recorded music market, which when I came to China in 2007, I think that it was maybe whatever number 100 or something like that. Everything was pirated basically, and now it's number 70. And the film market in China is number 2. So you can see where it's going to go to. It's going to be the biggest or the second biggest market in the world. And again, get familiar with Tencent and Alibaba and all these things.
Any other question?
We were speaking about like different types of social media and so on. I'm looking for this one in Slovakia, and we had a journalist from Rolling Stones India last year. How much are these traditional media social
We kind of did a panel on journalism in the last 8 years. It's kind of it's still working. Like we've got Rolling Stones, we've got like Rock Street Journal, but it's been difficult like for journalists who have actually come out independently to work, but there's not much income for them to sustain themselves. So it's only like brands like Rock Street Journal and all that can really, Rolling Stones can really afford to pay these people and keep them. But independent work, like they set up an online, they go to shut down, there's no sustainability, monetizing it.
Let's face it, like print is pretty much dead. There's like with the odd like exception, print doesn't exist in the world anymore, and it only exists for people that are, my age, maybe like and older. I'm 38, so I still read newspapers, but like any 20-year-old.
I think that's open for discussion. I read from several countries that there are some new magazines that are popping up and they are working. People like to read them.
niche. Yeah, niche.
Yes.
You know, it's niche.
Yes.
But it's not like, you know, we're not talking about, yeah, of course there's a niche for everything. There's a niche for vinyl, you know, we have the big vinyl revival and it's like 1% or something like that on the market, you know, yeah, it's 1%. But it doesn't mean that like, you know, wow, everybody's buying vinyl. It's just like, you know, it's niche.
But all these brands have also moved into the digital magazine and the digital space. So you're like literally, you know, on Instagram you're following Rock Street Journal and Rolling Stones, and then you just, you know, that's where you're following them. You're not buying their prints anymore. So there is no monetization for them to print more magazines, and there's no sale of it. So everybody just goes on to digital.
But yeah, I mean, Billie Eilish, I just listened to the interview with Billie Eilish where she was like, you know, she was actually on the cover of several magazines and she thought it's like fucking amazing, you know. But just like because she's like, you know, 19 years old, it's like, oh, it's a magazine, wow, this is great, you know, the cover of it, you know, it's like, you know, so, but you know, obviously she got big, not because of a magazine, but because, you know, she did Instagram, you know, or SoundCloud was the first thing, I guess.
Okay. Yes. So thanks everybody. I think we have